Every human being carries two versions of themselves: the person they are today and the person they could become. Between those two versions exists a battlefield invisible to the world. A battlefield of habits, emotions, memories, fear, identity, and belief. Some people stay trapped in the same cycle for decades. Same thoughts, same excuses, same emotional patterns. But others transform completely. The shy become confident. The weak become disciplined. The addicted become free. The lost become purposeful. Why? What changes inside the human mind during transformation? Is self-transformation simply motivation? Or is it a psychological rewiring of identity itself? Tonight, we explore the hidden psychology behind human transformation. The science of change, the power of belief, the role of pain, and the mental systems that determine who we become. This is the psychology of self-transformation. Most people want change. They want a better body, a sharper mind, more confidence, more money, a better life. But wanting change and becoming different are not the same thing. Psychologists have studied human behavior for decades, and one truth appears again and again. The brain is designed to resist change because change is uncertainty, and uncertainty feels dangerous to the human nervous system. Your brain prefers familiarity over improvement. Even painful familiarity can feel safer than unfamiliar growth. This is why people stay in toxic relationships, stay in jobs they hate, stay trapped in destructive habits. Not because they enjoy suffering, but because the mind values predictability. The human brain constantly tries to conserve energy. Habits are mental shortcuts. Once a behavior becomes automatic, the brain spends less energy performing it. That means your current life is largely the result of repeated subconscious patterns, not conscious decisions. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. And that is where transformation truly begins. The greatest obstacle to transformation is not laziness. It is identity. People behave in ways that match the story they believe about themselves. I'm shy. I'm unlucky. I'm not disciplined. I always fail. This is just who I am. These statements seem harmless, but psychologically, they become commands. The human brain constantly seeks consistency between belief and behavior. If someone believes they are weak, their mind unconsciously protects that identity. Even success can feel uncomfortable if it conflicts with self-image. This phenomenon is called cognitive dissonance. When behavior and identity conflict, the brain experiences psychological tension. And most people remove that tension by returning to familiar behaviors. That is why temporary motivation rarely lasts, because motivation changes behavior, but identity controls behavior. Real transformation happens when identity changes first. A smoker who says, "I'm trying to quit smoking," still identifies as a smoker. But someone who says, "I don't smoke," has already begun shifting identity. The transformation begins internally before it appears externally. Human beings rarely transform during comfort. Most transformation begins with pain, loss, failure, rejection, embarrassment, rock bottom. Pain interrupts patterns. It forces the brain to question old systems. Psychologists often describe emotional pain as a disruption event, moments when old identities collapse. And strangely, these painful moments can become the birthplace of reinvention. History is filled with people transformed by suffering, athletes after defeat, leaders after failure, artists after heartbreak. Pain creates awareness. Awareness creates reflection. Reflection creates change. But pain alone is not enough. Some people use pain as fuel. Others use it as proof that life is hopeless. The difference lies in interpretation. Two people can experience the same failure. One becomes bitter. The other becomes stronger. Because human beings do not respond to events directly. They respond to the meaning they assign to those events. Transformation begins when suffering gains purpose. Every repeated behavior strengthens neural pathways in the brain. Thoughts become patterns. Patterns become habits. Habits become personality. This process is called neuroplasticity. The brain physically rewires itself based on repeated experiences. That means transformation is not magic, it is repetition. Each time you repeat a behavior, your brain becomes more efficient at performing it. This is why bad habits feel automatic, but it is also why positive habits eventually become effortless. The challenge is that the brain rewards immediate pleasure more than long-term improvement. Scrolling social media, eating junk food, avoiding difficult work. These behaviors provide instant dopamine. And dopamine teaches the brain, repeat this again. Transformation requires delaying short-term comfort for long-term identity change. And this is psychologically difficult because the human brain evolved for survival, not self-optimization. Modern life constantly hijacks the reward system. Apps, entertainment, notifications, fast food, all engineered to capture attention and stimulate dopamine. The result? A distracted society struggling to focus long enough to transform. Many people believe transformation is purely about willpower, but psychology tells a different story. Environment shapes behavior more than motivation. Your surroundings constantly influence your decisions. The people around you affect your standards. Your room affects your focus. Your digital environment affects your thoughts. Human beings unconsciously imitate behavior from their social environment. This is called social conditioning. If everyone around you procrastinates, discipline feels abnormal. If everyone around you complains, negativity becomes normal. Transformation often requires changing environments before changing outcomes. Sometimes growth demands distance. Distance from distractions. Distance from toxic influences. Distance from old versions of yourself. Because every environment reinforces an identity. A gym reinforces fitness. A library reinforces learning. A peaceful environment reinforces clarity. The mind absorbs what it repeatedly experiences. And over time, environment becomes personality. Much of human behavior operates below conscious awareness. The subconscious mind stores emotional patterns, beliefs, fears, and memories accumulated over years. Many people attempt transformation consciously, while their subconscious resists it silently. Someone may consciously want success, but subconsciously fear rejection, criticism, or responsibility. This creates internal conflict. Psychologists call this self-sabotage. The conscious mind sets goals. The subconscious mind protects familiarity. This is why people repeat destructive cycles even when they know better. True transformation requires awareness of hidden emotional programming, childhood experiences, trauma, repeated criticism, social conditioning. These experiences shape self-perception deeply. The mind remembers emotional survival strategies long after the danger disappears. A child ignored emotionally may become an adult desperate for validation. A child constantly criticized may grow into an adult afraid to fail. Transformation is not just building new habits. Sometimes it is healing invisible wounds. People often misunderstand discipline. They think disciplined individuals feel motivated all the time. But psychology reveals something different. Discipline is not emotional. It is behavioral automation. Highly disciplined people reduce decision-making. They create routines so consistent that action becomes automatic. This matters because emotions are unreliable. If you only act when inspired, you become controlled by mood. Transformation requires action beyond emotion. The brain learns through repetition, not intention. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, self-trust increases. And self-trust is psychologically powerful, because confidence is not built through positive thinking alone. Confidence is evidence. Evidence that you can rely on yourself. Small, repeated victories reshape identity. One workout, one study session, one difficult conversation. Tiny actions repeated daily become psychological proof of transformation. One of the strangest truths about transformation is that people often fear success more than failure. Why? Because transformation changes relationships, it changes routines, it changes expectations, it changes identity, and sometimes growth creates loneliness. When someone transforms, old social circles may feel uncomfortable. People often resist change in others because it forces them to confront their own stagnation. This creates social pressure to remain the same. Psychologists call this the crab mentality. When one crab attempts to escape the bucket, the others pull it back down. Human groups unconsciously preserve social balance, and becoming different can threaten that balance. This is why transformation requires courage. Not just courage to fail, but courage to outgrow environments that no longer align with your future. At some point during transformation, something remarkable happens. The new behavior stops feeling forced. The person who once struggled to wake up early now feels uncomfortable sleeping in. The person who once feared exercise now craves movement. The person who once doubted themselves now trusts their ability to adapt. Why? Because identity has shifted. Transformation becomes permanent when the brain accepts a new self-image. This is the true goal, not temporary achievement. Identity evolution. You are not fighting habits alone. You are teaching the brain who you are becoming. And once identity changes, behavior follows naturally. Many people imagine transformation as a final destination, a moment where everything becomes perfect. But psychology suggests something deeper. Human beings are constantly evolving. Transformation is not a single event. It is a continuous process of awareness, adaptation, and growth. Every experience changes the brain slightly. Every decision shapes identity. The question is not whether you are changing. The question is, in which direction? The most transformed people are not perfect people. They are aware people. People willing to confront themselves honestly. People willing to endure discomfort for growth. People willing to abandon old identities when necessary. Because the greatest transformation is not becoming someone else. It is becoming fully conscious of who you can be. Inside every human mind exists a hidden conflict: comfort versus growth, fear versus possibility, old identity versus future self. Most people wait for transformation to happen automatically, but transformation is rarely accidental. It is psychological warfare against old patterns, a daily negotiation between the person you were and the person you are becoming. The brain can change, habits can change, identity can change, and history proves that ordinary people can completely reinvent themselves. The question is not whether transformation is possible. The question is, will you remain loyal to your past or courageous enough to create a new self?